What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and we are here today with the review for The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Season 2, episode number 12. And the episode was titled A House Divided. All right, you guys. So before we get into the review, if you guys are watching this video or any other on the channel and are not subscribed to the channel, I'm gonna need you guys to do me a big solid favor. Stop taking me out on this date and having me pay for it at the end of it. And doing me a big, huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on, like the video, share the video. And you guys, with that out the way, without further ado, let's get into the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because I got some other things that I got to do today. The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, you guys know we were off last week because Portia's show premiered. Now, you guys know I love Portia. We're not here to talk about Portia, but Portia's show came out last week, so there was no Salt Lake City. But we're back tonight with the Real House, well, today with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City review. Now, the episode, we picked up where we left off 2 weeks ago. Now, you guys remember that the ladies were having the conversation about Mary's church, right? They were talking to Lisa. They were trying to get Lisa to tell them what it was that Cameron had, told Lisa to make her feel some type of way, right? And you guys remember that Lisa told the ladies that Cameron had mortgaged his house for $300,000 and gave it to Mary and to Robert, right? So we flash back about a month prior to this, right? And we see Lisa as she's sitting down with Cameron, right? So Cameron was telling, and I love what Meredith said the last time she was on Watch What Happens Live, right? She was talking about the fact that, people are talking about Mary's church, right? And the fact that he gave her this money. But it could have been a charitable donation, right? Because no one said anything when that guy donated $1 million to Angie's charity. No one said anything about that. No one said, let's look into that, right? So I love when Meredith said that. So Cameron was telling Lisa that, Mary and Robert Sr. would get the congregation members together, right? Basically sell them a pipe dream, so to speak. He said that this was to get her surgery. She's like get her odor glands removed. He said that and some other things, right? So I guess that they were like, from Cameron, which I'm not going to speak too deeply on Cameron because Cameron is no longer with us. He's deceased, so I'm not going to speak on that. But the thing was, I guess, but I mean, this is something that happened in most churches, right? You give your tithes and they say, oh, this is going to go toward the building fund. This is going to go toward this is going to go toward that. When 9 times out of 10 is going right into their pockets, right? Let's keep it real. Let's be real and honest about the situation, right? So, and some people say, oh, if you do this will get you closer to, and I'm sorry, it happened plenty of times. I'm sorry, it's never happened to me, and it will never happen to me because, like I said, I don't see myself going into a church, right? But certain churches say, well, if you do this, God will reward you in an abundance, right? If you do this, the Lord will reward you for this. If you do that, the Lord will reward you for that. So we see that, and I'm not saying that that's what Mary or Robert Sr. did. I'm just saying it's not entirely impossible for it to happen, right? So then Lisa, she starts up with the fake tears because Meredith was like, okay, enough of the deflecting. Because she's like, well, not deflecting. Meredith's whole thing is, the women, I mean, this is something that they've done before, right? They talked about her and Seth's relationship last season, right? So she says that, she will not keep listening to, these questionable digs that have no facts, which is true. And like I said, Meredith, when she was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy, she said, and even she said it on the after show, like, these could have been charitable donations. So why are we looking at this in any other way? It's because it's Mary and it's because of her church and, the rumblings around the church, right? So then we see Lisa. So Lisa left because Lisa got upset with Meredith and she got up and she left, right? So then when she did that, she went by Mary's room and then we hear her talking to Mary and she was telling Mary that they're outside talking about her and her church. And at first they weren't mic'd up, but then we hear them, we hear them clearer because they're mic'd up. And that's when Lisa was trying to talk to, she's like, Cameron. She was talking about Cameron. And Mary's like, but I know Cameron I know Cameron better than you do, right? He's not, because she's like, I have my friendship with Cameron, then I have mine with you. But Lisa, she was like, but you know him through me and you don't know him as well as I do. So then the next morning we see Mary. So Mary is going around and Mary is a massive manipulator. Let's keep that 100% real. Mary is a manipulator. She's a true manipulator in the sense of every sense of the word, because we see her in the next day. She went to Jenny's room, right? So she went to Jenny's room and she gave Jenny these Christian Louboutin heels, and she gave it to Jenny because Jenny had done her makeup the day before. So I'm like, so because she did your makeup, you give her that? That's very manipulative. It's like you're manipulating these people and you're trying to control these people. It's really weird when you like literally sit and think about it. It's the weirdest shit, right? It's extremely weird to me. When you just really think about it, it's really weird. So then we see Whitney. So Whitney is talking to Heather, right? So what happened is the night before, Heather was in her room and Whitney was in her room and she could hear. So I think I know they said this happened about 2 a.m. in the morning, right? So the conversation with Lisa and Mary, they went to Heather's room, right? They jumped on her bed, they woke her up. And here's where things got a little bit weirder, right? Mary presented everyone with gifts with the exception of Whitney. She gave a clutch to Lisa, which we'll talk about that later. She gave Lisa a gift and she gave Heather a gift in this scene, right? So that's what Heather was, and she said, because Whitney was like, I heard you guys laughing, which nothing's wrong with that, but she was like, the fact that we were all outside not that long ago, and especially Lisa was the one who was talking about Cameron mortgaged his home to give the money to Mary. So, Whitney may come off airy and whatnot, but Whitney comes off eerie, but Whitney is a smart person, right? Because she has Lisa's number because she figured it out. She was like, Lisa threw me under the bus when Lisa was the one who kind of, got this shit rolling. I don't think Lisa's gonna have a good time at this reunion. I think if Andy does what Andy should do, Andy will come. If Andy doesn't come at the ladies, I hope the ladies come at Lisa at the reunion. Because if you guys, I don't know any lady right now that might be in a good space with, just from the trailer and I know social media. I don't think any of them, I don't know about Jenny, but I don't think any of these ladies are in a good space with, especially with filming. I don't think any of these ladies are in that great of a space with Lisa, because I know Mary has said stuff about her on Twitter because I saw it. We know how Whitney and Heather feel about her, and then we saw the what's coming up this season where Meredith and Lisa get into it, which I had been seeing that coming for a while. So we're gonna pause here and we're gonna move forward, you guys. All right, you guys. So we got a little quick scene with Heather and her sister. So I really feel bad for Heather's sister, right? So Heather's sister, nothing's wrong with what she did, right? That woman followed her own path. She didn't want to live the Mormon life. She found someone she fell in love with who was not of the Mormon faith. She didn't get married in the Mormon church. That woman lived her own life. So why her family decided to exile her and cast her aside is beyond me. But we can see that Heather wants to reestablish a relationship with her sister. They're talking about the fact that when their father passed, they weren't able to have a funeral for him. So I'm assuming that their father must have passed in 2020, right? During the pandemic, so they couldn't do anything. So they're going to have a celebration of life party for him, right? So we found out that it has been decades since they had a communication with each other. And you know what? I can't even talk because it's been years since I've had communication with my brother, but I didn't follow up with my brother over, religion or anything. It's just other reasons why we have, our communication hasn't been as strong as it used to be. But it was nice to see that scene, right? So then we see the ladies, they're all packing to get ready to go back to Salt Lake City, right? So what is going to happen is they're all going to take a private jet back to Salt Lake City that, Meredith has chartered for them, right? So then we see Jenny and Lisa go into Meredith's room, right? So Lisa is asking Meredith, like, how are we? Are we good? And, Meredith's like, she was just upset, right? And she's just telling Lisa about the fact that, once again, like I said a few minutes ago, this group, with the exception of you and Mary, everyone discussed my marriage with Seth last season. So she wants to extend that same grace to Mary. And she feels bad that she even mentioned, Cameron to Whitney, which I don't understand why Meredith feels bad about mentioning Cameron to Whitney. I get, she explained it a little bit later. She talked about it again later, right? But if you felt uneasy by that conversation with Cameron, there was no reason for you to feel any type of way, right? You should have just said, hey, and more specifically, I think maybe Meredith should have sat down, had a conversation with Lisa instead of having a conversation with Whitney. I think that's what she should have done. She should have had a conversation with Lisa. She should have said, Lisa, like, do you know what Cameron told me? And, well, she did, but Lisa deflected. So we gonna put this back on Lisa because Lisa knew what she was doing. Lisa knew full well what she was doing when she brought Cameron to that event. Because I remember she did talk to her about it, but like I said, she deflected. But she got a reaction from, now maybe she should not have brought it up to Whitney. Maybe she should have said something to Mary in the moment, but hey, hindsight is 2020, right? But Lisa is the master manipulator with that situation with Cameron. So then we see Meredith, right? So Meredith has called a meeting with all the ladies, right? So Meredith tells, Whitney, hey, when it comes to this Cameron situation, I should have never brought it up to you, right? And she says, I apologize to you, Mary. I should have come to you and had the conversation with you, which I do agree with that, right? She definitely should have went to Mary and had the conversation. And then Whitney chimes in and she's like, well, I would have never mentioned Cameron I would have never said anything about your church or Cameron if Cameron wasn't brought to the circle. And who brought Cameron to the circle? Lisa did. Oh my God, why are you mentioning me? I didn't do anything. That's bogus, Lisa. That's not right, Whitney. I did not do that. I did not do anything. Like, oh my God, Whitney. This is what you guys always do. You guys always say that I'm doing this. I don't have a remote telling you how to do or feel. You're right. You're right, Lisa. You don't have a remote. But what you're doing is you're producing storylines, right? You're bringing people. And what it looks like from an outsider looking in, it looks like you are bringing people to the show or bringing things to the show that you've heard from you've heard about other people, right? Like, it seems like you're doing that. Actually, did she say that in this episode? Was that in the trailer? No, she did say this. She did. See, here's my issue with Lisa, right? So let's just backtrack just a little bit, right? Because see, Lisa is playing a game. I don't know what Lisa's angle is, right? So remember earlier in the episode, I was telling you they picked up where the episode left off, right? So one thing that I will say that Lisa kept saying to Meredith, have you looked at YouTube? Have you done this? Have you done that? Because there's a lot of stuff out there about Mary. So we see, all about the tea. We see Layla Lynn on, shout out to Layla Lynn. Come on, girl, get your shine on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. But you see those articles. You see, because Layla Lynn talked about, Mary, all about the tea is talked about. Like, you see all that stuff. And that's my issue with Lisa. Lisa is the type of person who will throw the stone, try to, throw the stone at you, but hide their hand. Like, no, you did this. And I wonder, I know they have the after show. I know they are on Twitter. I didn't see anything on Twitter. I wasn't on Twitter last night, so I don't know what anybody said about the episode. But I'm curious. I'm anxious for this reunion because Lisa has a lot of questions. Lisa has a lot to answer for, right? Especially this stuff with Mary. What has Mary done to you, right? That's my thing when it comes to Lisa. What did Mary do to you for you to go this far? Because granted, like I said, and the thing is, like I keep saying with religion, it's not just Mary's church, it's any organized religion. We could say any organized religion is a cult, right? People say Scientology, that's a quote religion, and people call that a cult. People can say being a Mormon, they can say that that's cult like, right? Listen to the things that Heather says. That does sound very cult like, right? So let's just stop talking about Mary's church being a cult. And then, it's interesting, right? And also, the one thing I forgot to mention is the fact that, when Lisa went to Mary's room, she kept talking about the fact that, they were saying that her church members think of her as God. She's like, no, they don't think of me as God. I mean, once again, I grew up in the church, so I know that people say that God speaks to us through our pastors, our preachers, our priests. I know that that's what they say. So why are y'all trying to flip it as if people, now they could think that Mary is God, but most times people think that God speaks to us through the pastor, the minister, the whatever you want to call them. I just have an issue with all this stuff. I really do have an issue with it, and it's just blowing my mind, right? So where are we at? Now I will say one thing about Mary, because Mary is a nasty person. Mary might be kooky, Mary might do weird things, but to the core of Mary, she's a nasty individual. The things that she says, just disgusting. Because they were talking about the fact that she gave gifts to, she gave Jenny the shoe, she gave Lisa a clutch, she gave Heather a purse, she gave Meredith something Louis Vuitton. So she's given Louis Vuitton, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton. And what is the ultimate thing? She didn't give Whitney anything. And Whitney was like, it's not the fact that you didn't give me anything. That's not an issue. It's the issue that my issue is, I think that she's trying to buy these people, right? Because it just doesn't seem genuine. And with Jenny, that wasn't even a gift that she bought. Because Jenny's like, oh, you didn't have to buy this for me. She said, oh, I didn't buy it for you. She said, I already had it. And when I was packing my bags, I packed this and I didn't have enough room. I was like, maybe Jenny will like it. Like I said, Mary's a nasty person. So then she was going at Whitney, and Heather chimed in, right? And then Mary just started coming at Heather. I'm like, where did this come from? And like I said, the things that come out of Mary's mouth are so disgusting, so vile and disgusting, right? Because at one point she talked about Heather's weight, right? She called her chubby. I'm like, Mary, you are the last person to talk about anybody's appearances. Let's be real about that. You are the last person to discuss appearances. What is this on your face? Like, what is that? Like, you done bleached your skin a little bit too much, huh? Like, you bleached your skin. Your wigs are shitty. Like, let's talk about that. And then, so Heather got upset and she was like, you know what? Let's go, Whitney. So Heather went to the bathroom and Whitney went to following behind her. And, Heather was like, I'm not riding on no plane with Mary Cosby. Absolutely not. And I do agree with one thing that Heather said to the ladies, right? The only person in this group right now that I can, two people in this room, maybe three people in this room that are not cowering to Mary would be Jenny, outside of Heather. Jenny didn't cower to Mary. Meredith didn't cower to Mary, and Whitney didn't. Lisa is lying and deflecting, right? And I do like what Jenny said in this scene, right? Like, I don't know you or anything about your church, so I'm not passing judgment. But she says they were talking about your church last night. And here's the funny thing. Lisa ain't said shit. Lisa didn't deny it at all. She didn't deny the shit. Jenny literally said they were talking about your church last night. And that's just what Whitney and Heather were just saying. You were outside with them talking about Mary, but you got so defensive with them. But Jenny says that you ain't got nothing to say. Lisa's fake as hell, right? And then, Whitney went to check on Heather. Like I said, she didn't want to ride back on the plane with Mary. So they're going to take they're going to fly however they're going to fly home, right? So Whitney was like, we got to go because I can't deal with this fakeness, right? Like, people are not being honest about things. And Mary says, I believe you. And Mary got a little upset. I get why Mary got upset because it seemed like a generalization. But Mary, if you knew who she was talking to, she was talking to Lisa. Lisa is the only person who's not being real and not being honest in this situation. Now, when Mary got up to go, because Mary was crying, and I understand, again, like I get Mary. I got Mary in this scene, right? I understood why Mary was upset. Like, you guys are equating me to being like Jen. Could she be like Jen? Possibly. Could she not be? Quite possible. It's possible she could be, and it's possible she can't. Like, I can see her point of view, right? I'm not stealing from people. I'm not doing this. Now, the thing that bothered me with Mary, and my jaw dropped when Mary said it on camera, I was like, ooh, you might regret saying some of that stuff, right? So she was crying, right? And Lisa following behind her. And she was talking about, they're talking about, my church members think I'm God. I worship the God in me. I was like, okay, I ain't got nothing to say, right? And then she was talking about them comparing her to Jen, and this is where she lost me. When she called Jen a thug, I was like, ooh. The music even changed too. She called her a thug, and then she went even deeper. I was like, ooh, Mary, you just made a whole generalization about an entire group of people. So Mary called Jen a thug, like those Mexican people who make all those drugs. I was like, oh, no, she did not. You know what? Now that she said that, I actually kind of can believe what Jen said last season about Mary. But I believe that last season, and I knew what Mary meant, like about the 7-Eleven comment, you guys. But damn, for her to sit there and say she called Jen a thug, like those Mexican people who make all those drugs, I was like, ooh, Mary, you're going to regret that in the morning, because they're going to be on your ass. But that's the review, you guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell button so you guys are notified when I drop anything else. Share the video, and until the next one, stay safe, take care of yourselves. Remember to wash your hands, wear a mask, socially distance, be blessed, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.